A few years ago, people used to make jokes if someone accidentally hit reply all. I'm sure it's happened to some of you. Today, we have a new version of that problem. AI tools can write emails, summarize your meetings, generate code, that makes my heart hurt, and sound incredibly confident while being completely wrong. And the dangerous part isn't the technology, it's how quickly humans have stopped questioning it because it sounds so polished. We're not losing security because our technology is failing. We're losing trust because humans are slowly outsourcing where they should be using judgment. So we're going to talk about trust today. So good afternoon to everybody. I have spent almost 40 years in technology, leadership, and cybersecurity conversations. My name is Kelly Irwin. And honestly, the biggest risk I'm taking in my life at this time is I'm going on a 2-week motorcycle trip on Friday on the California coast. For anyone who's been there, it's sort of off on the ledge. And maybe it's fitting for today's topic. I was thinking about it because riding teaches you something about cybersecurity that we can't forget. Trust matters, but blind trust can get you hurt. So I trust the bike, I trust my husband, I trust the road, but I still have to pay attention, we have to communicate, and I have to use judgment every minute, or it could put my life at risk. It's very similar to what you guys are experiencing in your jobs. So today's discussion is about the human layer, which I love, and it's the part we can't patch, we can't automate, and we can't outsource, that human judgment. And to keep it conversational, I'm going to ask my panelists to introduce themselves a bit differently today. So yes, tell me what you do. Everyone wants to hear that very briefly. But also tell us something human about yourself, something that reminds you and reminds everyone here that you're a person behind this title. Maybe it's a risk you've taken or something that keeps you grounded, or something even outside of cybersecurity that has taught you about trust in your life. So I'll start with George.
Thank you very much, Kelly. By mistake on seat placement, I am literal, and they called my name, so Shilpa should be sitting here. I will acknowledge my failure. So my day job, I'm a CISO, I'm also a founder, all that. Human factor, so some of you may know, I've been a long time competitive fighter and athlete, done Muay Thai boxing at a very high level. I also am massively a fan of jazz. I'm a huge fan of the arts. I get my greatest pleasure enjoying artistic work and really, really enjoying live music. I think that to me is my most human element.
Thank you. We'll move on to Shilpa.
Thank you, George. Didn't know you were a competitive fighter, so I'm not fighting you for the seat at all. My name is Shilpa Daya. I lead the cybersecurity for Ontario's, one of Canada's largest defined benefit pension plan. It's called CAT Pension Plan. That's my day-to-day job. Outside of that, and because Kelly, you were talking about trust, right? Something you want to tell about what relates to trust is, in my day job, I'm expected to be a leader, lead from the front, but I'm a very shy and introvert person. So the way I built trust over the years, I've realized is that when I was growing up, I was thinking, trust is always saying yes, doing the job, never saying no to an answer, and that's how you build trust in the organization and leadership. But over the years, I've realized trust is quiet resilience. It's standing up for your people when they expect it the least. And over the years, I've realized that you don't always have to shout on the rooftops. A shy and introvert person, a very reserved person like me can also make a difference in cybersecurity. So that's something very unique about me, which sometimes when people see me, they're like, you're not an introvert. I'm a very, very shy person. So that has really, really, really helped me. And The other thing I want to mention outside that's very unique is I read a lot. And then sometimes reading and inculcating, especially if there's anybody who's very introverted, shy, and wants to grow in leadership, sometimes taking communication in is the best way to understand stuff and build that resilience that then you can pass along as human trust in your organizations. So that is a little bit about me.
Thank you.
I'll
Go ahead, Shruti.
last. First of all, thank you, Kelly, for that question. That's a very unique question to start with. For me, I will answer this in twofold, from a personal level as well as professional level. On the professional level, the biggest trust I've done is taking the bet or trust on myself, because I am an engineer by education, but I am a regulator by job. So I do GRC, and I've been doing GRC for the past decade. I graduated as an engineer who was, although I didn't know what I am going to do, and kind of fell into this career. This was not a very glamorous career back then, and it was never until recently with AI, things have changed. I took a bet to a profession that was not spoken about, and that was not getting the publicity that it deserved, and I kind of followed through. So that is one of the trusts that I did on myself. And on a personal level, I think I love traveling. I travel a lot, and the biggest trust I take is on my husband to take me around the world and kind of follow through that itinerary. But yeah, he has never failed me too. So that is like the twofold answer I'll start with.
That's awesome. I think if I listen to all three of you, trust comes out, you each said, personal life, professional life. And I think if all of us think about our most trusted relationships, they build over time, right? Like we may give people the benefit of the doubt when we meet them, but it doesn't mean we actually trust them yet until there's some interaction and some confidence building in that relationship and in them keeping their word. The other part of it is you all talked about, trusting yourself too. So trusting yourself to stand up within your organization and talk, trusting yourself to be in a fight and win. But I think, that personal confidence brings you trust in yourself, and then the communication with others brings you trust in them. These things are not about technology, as you guys know. So I'm going to start with Shilpa, and the question is, are we over-investing in security technology and under-investing in the human resilience? And I would say, think about, are we buying lots of tools and telling people you have everything you need while they're exhausted and maybe afraid to speak up about what they really need from their leader to excel?
It's a great question, Kelly, and honestly, to some extent, I agree. I do believe, and then obviously the tools are always going to be replaced, the technology is always going to be advancing all the time, so there's some kind of debt that you need to get out, the technical debt, the process debt, and then you have to replace it with something that's more relevant based on the external threat environment. But overall, I do believe, because we're talking about trust here, we are definitely more reliant on technology, and sometimes we believe, having managed SOCs for such a long time, it's a 24/7 thing. Burnout is real. It's quite real, and what really happens is sometimes we get so blinded to those day-to-day alerts coming in, going out, coming in. Sometimes we just rely so much on them that we miss stuff out, and then analysts come back and say when there's an incident that, if it was so bad, the tool would have caught it, right? We've got all the IOCs in place, we've got all the alerting in place, I'm monitoring 24/7. If the tool didn't show it, it shouldn't be an incident, but we've seen time and time again, that's not how incident happens. So there is definitely that reliance on technology a lot, and the investments have gone there, right? Because that's where the biggest noise is, that's where most of our infrastructure helps us. That's important. However, the human resilience is something that I've realized over the years, and especially since COVID, And then 2022, when OpenAI first made the announcement, the past 4 years, what I've really seen is the resilience of humans have really, really gone down. I think we've forgotten, we went through a very, very huge change, which was the pandemic. It was unnatural for most of us to stay holed inside in our homes. And we had the biggest restrictions. But what that also did was the human cues that we had when we went to office every day, talked, looked at how anybody was doing social engineering, talked to people, heard about the risks over the coffee table, all of them have gone away. Not to say that remote work is not good, it's excellent. I think it gives us a lot of flexibility, but what has really happened over those years is because of those lack of cues, that resilience has gone away. And then we also do not encourage an environment where it's okay to make mistakes. Yeah. Like if my analyst or somebody else working in the team, if they're not confident to come back and tell me, hey, I missed it. Or as simple as somebody failing the phishing training. Right? We run behind compliance scores and metrics as if that's security. That's really not. Right? We don't allow people to make mistakes. They're afraid to speak up. And when they're afraid to speak up, that's where the human resilience goes away. Because it's day in and day out looking at the same thing, and a burnout is quite real.
Yeah.
So technology does scale infrastructure and operations, but human resilience scales trust. And I think that's where we continue to build on.
Very good, thank you.
Yeah.
Shruti, did you want to add to that and maybe think about the view of comments here about working from home versus working in the office? Building those relationships is different when we're online versus walking down the hallway and saying, hey, I have a quick question for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Humans are social animals. We are not built to be in a box and work 24/7 a day. And each of us, each of you are here today because you wanted that experience. Without that, there is no going around. We learn from each other, we absorb energy, we resonate information. There is so much to do, especially when we meet. I mean, I'm not saying that we are not living in a world where a lot of the work is being done remotely. Of course, we have established that. But that does not replace what we can do when we gather and share knowledge and talk about our shared pain or good things together. So I absolutely piggyback on what Shilpa said. The resilience that each of us share, it goes up, especially when we all meet and share those knowledge. And it's so very important, especially in a world like today, where layoffs are just happening through emails and, you don't get to even see or say goodbye. And you just get to know that this has happened to a colleague that you have worked for 20 years. So we are slowly losing that touch.
Yeah, very good. I like your comment. We're not meant to live in a box. I feel that way sometimes when you're on video conferences that, you're in a box and that's all people see of you. And then you meet them in person and they say, I had no idea what you looked like, which really means I didn't realize you were so short, so tall, so whatever, right? Because I only see your little head.
And the box keeps on saying, am I audible? Can you hear me? Am I audible? Right?
We're still on mute.
Yeah. That's the most one.
All right, George, so, we can talk about building up trust, but what's a behavior that is quietly destroying trust within our organizations? Let's keep it to that, not in our families. And, but that people aren't talking about, like maybe they don't know how to raise the issue. And so you could think about blame culture is one that comes to mind for me. Urgency, everything is urgent. I sent that to you yesterday. Didn't you get the note? Why aren't you on top of this? That kind of urgency that is sometimes false, or communications or leadership. Like, what are you seeing?
I think, look, it's always a top-down thing, right? And my whole career, going from the Army into working in security operations and making my way up, like I've always been an operator-first individual. I'm very thankful to be a second-generation Canadian. My parents were very much, particularly my father, was the kind of person that, in positions of leadership, he used to work in a bank, and then typical immigrant experience, had to be a taxi driver when he came to Canada. He always used to tell me, like, try to learn every base level job of every organization you're in and then work your way up. It makes you a more effective leader. I think we fundamentally suffer from a leadership problem, right? It's easy to blame working level individuals for some kind of toxicity or an inability to deliver or an inability to understand requirements. Like, that is a consequential problem of a failure to lead effectively. So, going through experiences where I came out of the military college, and then, you get put into operations, and then got washed out of that system, getting into cyber. I think the thing that I noticed the most was, if we treat people like adults, they will behave like adults. If we micromanage and treat people like children and consistently make them feel like they're not good enough, they will consistently fail us. We have to clarify our directions and intent. We have to allow people to fail fast, and we have to give them the space to make mistakes. When we create these cultures where hyperproductivity is everything, and we put profit over people, especially in the commercial world, like the public sector is a different thing, academia is a different thing. I'm a commercial sector individual, so I look at things from the commercial context. You cannot constantly blame staff when you, as a leader, fail to meet your KPI or KPIs. And I think the inability of leadership to empower individuals and this is where I think one toxic trait is, and this is from a leadership standpoint, there's a lot of leaders in this room. If you ever work with me, or ever work for me, if you do something great, I will make sure that you are the one that is platformed, that the spotlight's on you. If something in the team fails, I will be the one to own accountability for it, because I'm the leader, and that's what's supposed to be. And that's how your team trusts you. And I do not micromanage my personnel. I make sure that we have an environment of trust. And knowing that your leader is not going to throw you under the bus the first chance they get makes them feel comfortable enough to be human beings and give you their best effort, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Very good. How many of you want to work for George now?
Yes.
Resumes at the door. Shruti, I'll go to you on this one. Has cybersecurity accidentally trained employees to stop thinking for themselves? And by that I mean, do we have all these processes in place and dashboards and flashing lights and are we forgetting, like, outside the tools and all the technologies, are we forgetting that people need to use their judgment and their curiosity to say, I know the report told me this, but something doesn't feel right?
Mm-hmm. Being a GRC person, it's sometimes hard to think outside those processes, but I do have
That's why you got the question.
Yes, I completely understand, but I do have my LinkedIn tagline saying, lean compliance is not a compromise. I am a true believer of that. Only start by seeking and asking questions about why you need something. You're not there to over-comply or over-specify or over-process anything. The more you put processes, the more you are practically telling people, click here, do this, do this, do this, do this, and you're, again, putting them inside a box. Putting them inside a box never actually going to enhance themselves. The more you push them to actually think for themselves and critically think about situation is what's going to make them better. So even though, like, my profession tells me that GRC, the compliance aspects, or everything that has to follow certain framework, follow certain regulation, absolutely. But I think Vivian was saying last night, and I truly stand by that, those frameworks and those regulations are there to guide you, not to stop you from critical thinking. Make sure you're taking them as their face value, taking them as your guiding principle, but not blocking your employees by just pointing them back to those things and saying, hey, just follow this and stop thinking. That is never a good solution. And as we roll into AI, I think the critical thinking piece, we need to think more and more because it's definitely dumbing us down. And I myself have seen some replication of it. So I strongly, strongly encourage critical thinking within my own organization. We always start by asking the questions, why? Why we need to do certain things, what is the goal, what are we going to get out of it, without just simply saying, hey, we have to follow ISO 27001 framework, and we have to build everything perfectly, we have to secure by this. No, what exactly are you trying to achieve here? If your goal is protection, not necessarily you're going to start by looking at a framework. Just look at what you need to do and start from there. The more you think, the better you get, instead of simply following.
I think that's a line for everyone. The more you think, the better you get. You can use AI to augment, but don't let it take over. So Shilpa, let's follow on with that question a bit. Like, what does that feel like in your organization? Or can you give an example where, there's a lot of data telling you a conclusion, but your intuition told you need to question that more?
Yeah, I think it's very prevalent from most of the organizations I worked with. It was very compliance heavy. So we're very paper-based security, ISO 27001 certified, NIST 4.0, which I don't think even the Department of Defense has. So those kind of maturity frameworks that we've, and I was like, oh, that appears great. Why do you need me? If you're already at a NIST 4.0, you don't really need me, right? I think when we started looking at the data and started looking in between the lines, half of the logs were not even going into SIM. So we were not really tracking all of our critical applications when we started looking at, if I asked somebody the question, okay, where is our data? I didn't get an answer. Like, that's to me is the biggest clue. If you don't know where your data is, and if nobody's asking you a question, and if you're not assessing your risk based on the type of data, you've not really categorized it, you don't really have any sense of maturity from a security perspective.
It's checkbox compliance. That's what I call it.
Checkbox
compliance.
And I think people in those organizations sometimes feel like, what is our point here? Like, we sometimes get it backwards, right? The point is not to have a bunch of forms filled out and a bunch of graphs that tell your board you're doing a good job. The point is to actually create a better, safer, stronger environment. The reporting is secondary, right?
Oh, 100%.
Sometimes those reports can overwhelm everyone.
But then there are organizations, Kelly, that only understand the language of compliance.
Yeah.
You won't get a funding if you
Not
don't
the whole
tell them.
organization.
They won't fund you if you tell them you're going to fail an audit, right? So it's sometimes a carrot and stick approach. So you have to work on that maturity of an organization to make it move from compliance focused to resilience focused.
To Shilpa's point, and I take this to all of you, go to your AI model, go to Google and ask this question. How many organizations that were breached before they were breached or at the time of their breach were legally considered compliant?
100%, yeah?
Yeah, that's
100%.
to that point.
That's a good one.
Yeah. That sums it up, right? Like, it's a false sense
Yeah.
of security.
False sense, yes.
Yeah.
So George, let's talk about in the moment of a crisis. And that could be a breach, it could be all kinds of different crises in our organizations. And let's talk about the balance of technical competence and good, strong communication. And I want you to help us with both views of that. You can have great technical solutions and people unable to communicate why they're important or what they do. You can have great, strong communications. I'm sure we've all seen this in some cases where there's a great marketing department telling the world a good message, and behind the scenes there's flames in the organization. So how do those two work hand in hand, and why are they both important?
So I think from a we'll say a breach command or incident command standpoint or a crisis management standpoint, I hearken back to, as a security leader, your job is to be the calmest person in the room. Your job is to be the one that everyone can turn to for leadership. I've always said that, like, my job I have my technical competencies, but I specifically hire people that are better than me at what they do. Like that's the point. I can jump on the means if I have to. I can jump in a SIEM. I can jump on an endpoint platform. I can do that, but that's not what the organization pays me for. What they need from us as leaders is to be coaches. Like, I'm a head coach of a team. I also, I'm a big book and movie nerd. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that Russell Crowe movie, Master and Commander, the naval movie. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. It, to me, is the pinnacle example of what good leadership under crisis, under stress, looks like. Your job is to understand your personnel, understand their strengths and weaknesses as much or better than they do, to know how to give them the right directives and issue the right commands at the right time so that they can perform optimally. Your job is to be able to look at the situation from a 10,000-foot level and understand, okay, here's what could happen if A, B, or C happens, and here's what could happen if, F or G happens. Your job is to figure out what that big picture is. And even if it's a smaller team approach, if you're managing a SOC team, if you're managing a DFIR team, if you're managing even a device content team, okay, your use cases failed. Okay, you couldn't predict that, right? Blaming one another is not the thing. Or blaming this person for clicking on that link where they shouldn't have clicked on, or blaming the vendor for giving you bad software that had horrible email filtering, that's not the thing. At the end of the day, you have to look at what is the situation now and how do we get through it, and then you assess on the after action. But again, I go back to just our job is to be calm. Our job is to control our emotions. There is a time and a place for us to appropriately leave the environment away from our colleagues and do whatever you got to do to de-stress. But if you're in the middle of that fire, and Lord only knows I pick places to work that are absolutely some of the most targeted in the internet because I get bored easily and I have ADHD and I'm a weirdo. But that kind of regular sort of battle-tested approach to running security, I think is the most enjoyable way to do the business of security. Because I think if you're an operator, there's a bit of a rush to it. And let's be real, we're kind of gluttons for punishment. We love the rush. I love it when I come under attack. I love it when there's a new thing to solve. If we weren't curious about what threat actors are doing, if we weren't curious about how new technology gets weaponized and what that use case looks like I get upset when I see or read about an incident where a threat actor does a thing and they get caught too stupidly. There's one thing I cannot stand. If it's criminal behavior that's dumb. I want someone smart. I want someone who's a worthy challenge. At the end of the day, it's the truth. At the end of the day, our jobs, again, are to be the leaders, are to be the guidance, are to be the reason why our organization trusts in the programs that we are a part of and that we lead. And that comes in our ability to orchestrate not only our personnel, but the tools that we have to the best of their ability to defend our environments.
Did y'all get it? That he doesn't like the dumb criminals to win?
I don't want to get pwned by a dumb person, I'm sorry.
I think when you talk about the rush, how many people in the room, so I'm going to ask you to clap because I can't see you. How many people in the room have been involved in an actual breach and the response to that breach? Okay. Quite a few. I was laughing when he said we love the rush. I think of it a little differently. I love the rush after the fact when I've solved it.
Yeah, that's fast. Yeah.
I've been involved in 3 cyber breaches at 3 different companies, and I will tell you, in the moment it was happening, the rush was not a good feeling. And I would bet all of you are like me. I remember exactly where I was standing all 3 times when the phone rang and the person said, "We think we have a problem." And I remember my heart stopping. So the rush came after with yay, we won, and we were able to solve that and minimize the impact. In the moment, not so much. But I also wasn't in the military like George, so different training. So I'm going to ask each of you to think about AI from the view of what are you excited about? I feel like we've had a lot of discussions about what to worry about, and I do worry a lot. But I want to think about the excitement of it and what it is helping us to do better. And I will start with Shruti.
What is it helping us to do better? I think everything. If I go and start from a very high level view, it's practically has made our life a lot easier. Even though commercial AI or commercial automation, machine learning, however you want to look at it, is available to, it's commercialized since 2022, things have been in a very shadow level available to us long back. And slowly, it has integrated into our life cycle so much that we barely noticed it. OpenAI kind of broke it all and came up with ChatGPT, and then everything else kind of followed. And now, whenever we think about those, we think about all those different tools and systems and everything else that comes with it. To kind of wrap it up, I think AI, artificial intelligence, automation, machine learning, all of this was, I'm hoping it was created for the betterment of mankind and humanity and to only get us better. So I am absolutely a big believer that it is enabling us to be better as a human, as a professional, as a personal level. The more we use it, the more we take advantage of it, it's only going to refine us and it's only going to set us on a good path.
Very good. All right, Shilpa?
To add to...
She said everything, so
Yeah.
now you have to say something smaller than everything.
I think that was a great response, Shruti. I want to add is what I'm personally excited about is managing chunks and chunks of data and having meaning to it, right? So millions of logs, millions of alerts that we can get in, if we analytics that comes out of it is something that I'm very excited about because it takes the burnout away. I am more excited about how can I use it to make life of our team better in terms of making sure we're spending time in shifting security left and being more business friendly than rather always being labeled as, security always gets in the way, right? Yeah. So I'm excited about the possibility, right? And also because AI can help you learn, right? If you do it the right way, it can help you learn. And business teams are now exploring it, so they're coming out with a lot of use cases. And for the first time, I think they're realizing security is really, really important and a business partner, because now they understand how security can help better the business problems and solve business problems. That was always the case, but we never got that lens that we are getting right now. So I'm very, very excited about that, how cybersecurity is becoming that important.
Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think you're right, helps you get through lots of data in a really quick amount of time, as long as we put our judgment on that, like we talked about earlier. Yeah. And George?
Are you talking about just in the security industry or in general?
I didn't quantify that, so I was curious to hear them both talking about work.
Okay, I don't really want to get into security because I'm still one of those weirdos that's just I don't fully trust because AI governance hasn't been figured out industry-wide, so just putting it in prod is just not my favorite thing in the world. That's a separate discussion. In general, we have to differentiate. Machine learning is still just a predictive machine based on trained data models. Data provenance is still the issue at hand. It is still a game of data. It is not real creative. Creativity is still the human realm. Where it is helpful, where I think there is inspiration and hope, is in medicine. The ability to detect cancer, to develop new innovative medicines, to be able to go through and force multiply our ability to hyperscale research, to solve the real problems impacting humanity and improve our quality of life if we decide to invest in AI to do so. We can create extremely lethal systems that can put, as I've been saying to people, warheads on foreheads very, very well from all over the world. Or, as Pope Leo has recently said, we can use it to the benefit of humanity. And my hope is that we can use it to extend life and to improve the quality of life for people around the world in ways in which they could no longer, or they could not have afforded before, and in ways they could not have imagined it would have been a real reality for them in their home countries, no matter where they are.
And I also would like it to do my laundry and the rest of the work, which I'm waiting for
Very
AI
good,
to
very good.
I'm down with that.
rather than take away our
Yeah,
jobs,
I'm down with that.
right?
Well, thank you very much. I feel like, the topic of we can't patch trust, we need to remember the human layer in our personal lives as well as in our work lives. And I'll share with you a brief story. My mother, who is 86 years old, just got a certification in AI yesterday. So for anyone who's nervous to dive in and get actual training and actual certification, there you go. She has proven that anyone can do it. And, I share that with you, not to brag about my mom. She's wonderful in many ways. But to just say, that tells you the curiosity of humans is what will drive us to learn how we can use this new technology for good. There are other people trying to use it for evil, but everyone in this room, I assume, is trying to use it for good. And your curiosity is what will take you there. Thank you very much for your time and attention. And
Thank you.
have a great afternoon. Thank you, panel.
Thank you, Kelly.
You guys are awesome.